Hello guys, welcome back. Today we are going to start a new poem called The Patriot written by Robert Browning. Okay, now it's a wonderful poem. It gives you a lot of meaning. But before that, I wanted to give a little sense. Now, the poem takes us to a sense that we have been witnessing in history, that rise and fall of a hero. So similarly, this poem is also related to on the theme, the rise and fall of a hero. See, the poem is actually based on a harsh critique on public sentiment and morality. It stresses on the point that not all decisions made or supported by the people are the right decisions, or even in their own interest. See, today you might have seen people might praise you, tomorrow those same people might humiliate you or might insult you. Okay, guys. So now this poem is actually a dramatic monologue. Now, what do you mean by dramatic monologue? Dramatic monologue means, in short, let me give you in short, that means an active narrator. Okay. Now, the narrator of this particular poem is actually a soldier. He could be an Italian soldier. He could be a soldier of any war. Okay. See, in this poem, we are listening to the thoughts of the soldier. In the beginning, we see his rise. At the end, we see his fall. So before knowing or before going in detail about the poem, I wanted to know something about the poet, who is Robert Browning. Robert Browning was an English poet and playwright born in Camberwell, London in 1812. He was an intelligent child who was fluent in 5 languages by the age of 14. He was also passionate about poetry and was a talented musician, composing arrangements of several songs as well as writing poetry. In 1845, he met the far more established poet Elizabeth Barrett. They married secretly a year later and moved to Italy, during which time they both wrote extensively. However, his poems made little impact until 1861, when, after Elizabeth's death, he returned to England. His subsequent publication, The Ring and the Book, published in 4 volumes, was a huge success, cementing his reputation as one of the foremost Victorian poets alongside his wife. He died in the year 1889. Now, as I told you earlier, this poem is a dramatic monologue. Now, what do you mean by dramatic monologue? As I told you, an active narrator. Now, the definition of dramatic monologue is a type of poetry written in form of speech as an individual character. That means the character is trying to narrate. It's a kind of a poetry. Dramatic monologue is a kind of a poetry written in a form of speech. That means somebody is narrating. Okay, I'm so sorry. Now, before we could start, let us see. I'll read out the poem. I want you to listen to the poem carefully. So word by word, I want everybody to listen carefully. Now, it was roses, roses all the way, with myrtle mixed in my path like mad. The house roofs seemed to heave and sway. The church spires flamed, such flags they had. I'm so sorry. A year ago on this very day, the air broke into a mist with bells. The old walls rocked with the crowd and cries. Had I said, "Good folk, mere noise repels, but give me your son from yonder skies," they had answered, "And after what? What else?" Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun, to give it my loving friends to keep. Not man could do have I left undone. and you see my harvest what I reap, sorry. This very day now a year is run. There's nobody on the housetops now, just a paled few at the windows set. For the best of the sight is all allowed. At Shambles Gate, or better yet, by the very scuffle's foot I trove. I go in the rain, and more than needs a rope cuts but my wrist behind, and I think by the feel my forehead bleeds, for they fling whoever has a mind stones at me for my year's misdeeds. Thus I entered, and thus I go. In triumphs, people have dropped down dead, paid by the world what dost thou owe me? God might question now instead. This God shall repay. I am safer so. Now, as you know, the narrator is the soldier. He is trying to describe in the first paragraph, in the first stanza, that he says it was roses, roses all the way, with myrtle mixed in my part like mad. The house roof seemed to heave and sway, and church spires flamed such flags they had a year ago on this very day. Now, here in the beginning, you could see the soldier has come back, has returned from war, and now he is considered to be a hero of his hometown. So he describes that how the people had welcomed him, how they welcomed him towards when he was arriving to his native place or hometown. Here you could see the people are throwing roses. When he was arriving, they were throwing roses on his path. They were throwing roses and myrtle on his path. Okay, and they were like mad, gone mad. People are so crazy. They want all are come out. All are come out of their houses right now and looking. They want to see. They just want to give a glimpse. They want to see how he looks, how this hero looks. All are come out and they're screaming in a very loud voice, cheering. Okay, and they're throwing roses, myrtles on his path. And many people, okay, were on their house rooftops. Okay, see, that is the reason there's a line. The house roof seems to heave and sway. That means here the narrator is trying to tell that people have crowded the roofs of their houses in such a manner. They have come to see, they just wanted to see him. They wanted to see this patriot, and that is the reason they have come on the top of the roofs, swaying, waving their hands. Okay, screaming, waving their hands. Okay, and whereas the church spires flamed such flags they had years ago on this very day. That means the church spires means what? The church tower was being decorated with flags. Decorated. And how do the flags look like? They were just flame, like, the flags were like, they were on flames. That means you can see the flames means like fire flames, you can see. So just like the flames. Okay, they've been like, flying like flames. Okay, flames of fire. So such a way of decoration, such a way, such a pomp, such a kind of a pomp of welcome was being done to this hero, to the soldier. Okay, let us go to the next stanza. The air broke into a mist with bells. The old walls rocked with a crowd and cries. And I said, good folk, mere noise repels, but give me your son from yonder skies. They had answer, and afterward, what else? Okay. Now, the first two lines. The air broke into a mist with bells. See, here the narrator, that is the soldier, is trying to narrate us, saying that the bells were ringing everywhere. The bells were ringing everywhere. It is the way of people rejoicing. That means it is a way of people rejoicing. They were ringing the bells. They were rejoicing and singing, ringing the bells. The entire atmosphere was thick of noise. The entire atmosphere was what? Was thick of noise. That means you can see in this walls, in the first two lines of the second stanza, the air broke into a mist with bells. Old walls rocked with the crowd and cries. That means people were cheering for the patriot. They were cheering for the patriot with their cries. As they were crying and screaming, okay, as if the walls were being rocked. The walls were being rocking. Okay, that's what he's trying. That is what the narrator is trying to describe. See, the bell were ringing everywhere. That's a kind of a welcome that has been made. People are rejoicing, okay, by ringing bells, okay, and not only that, the entire atmosphere was thick of noise, okay. People were cheering for the patriot. They were cheering him, and when they screamed and when they were crying, okay, they were cheering him. The old walls were rocking. That's what the poet. That is what the narrator is actually saying. Had I said, good folk, mere noise repels, but give me your son from yonder skies, they'd answer, and afterward what else? See, now the patriot says, see, this had happened a year ago on this same day. Right now, at present, what the narrator is trying to express, the same day had happened a year ago, how they had welcomed him. At that point of time, when the patriot asked anything for the public, like they were they were full of mad because he had come after a long time during the after war, okay, after a war, okay. He's a hero of the hometown right now, and as he asked, whatever he asked now will be granted. So he asked the public, okay, even anything, even a dearest thing, okay, whichever could be, okay, whichever could depend, okay. He asked them in such a ready voice, saying that, my dear people, can you get me the sun? Okay. And those they were so crazy. They were so crazy, they were so crazy the way he spoke. And they said, what else? What else do you want after the sun? What else? Repeat. See, whatever you ask, your wish will be granted. That's the manner of the people. That's the manner of society right now. A year ago, this thing happened on the very same day. And now, I'm so sorry. And now let us see what happens in the third stanza. Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun to give it my loving friends to keep. Not man could do, have I left undone. And you see my harvest, what I reap. This very day, now a year is run. See, in the first line, in this paragraph, has a very deep story. Okay. The first line itself says, it was I who leaped at the sun. Now, when I talk this word, I who leaped at the sun, you have to remember a story called Story of Icarus and Daedalus. Now, here, now you have to understand the narrator or also the poet gives a subtle reference of the old Greek mythology, okay, that is the story of Icarus and Daedalus. Or you can say Daedalus, okay. Now, who is this Daedalus and Icarus? Now, before I want you to listen carefully, the story, I'm going to tell you the story, and I'm going to refer the story in this stanza, and let us find out what is the real meaning of it. Now, here, let me tell you what it says. See, Daedalus was a great inventor. He was a great inventor who had actually took the opportunity to build a design. He is the one who took the opportunity to build a design structure called the labyrinth. Now, what is this labyrinth? You will come to know. Now, the labyrinth is a design was being built, was he was about to build, was given the opportunity to build this particular thing to King Minos. Now, King Minos was a very cunning king. So he gave an opportunity to Daedalus to create a labyrinth. Now, labyrinth is a passage. It's a kind of a sports. So King Minos was a very cunning king. He wanted Daedalus to create this particular thing. And this particular thing was being used as sport. What it is? As a sport. Now, here, what King Minion would do is that he would keep a creature called the Miniature. He would keep a creature called the Minotaur. Now, what is this Minotaur? Minotaur is nothing but a bloodthirsty kind of animal. So all the audience would look from top, and look at see this how this miniature would kill people. So when a time came when Daedalus had completed everything, taking the help of his son called Icarus. Okay, his Icarus was his son. So taking the help of his son Icarus, he had completed this labyrinth. What he had completed? He had completed this labyrinth. In this labyrinth, this creature, miniature, would hunt and kill them there only, in the secret passage. So this particular labyrinth, as soon as it was being created and it has been completed, I can say, but later, Daedalus and Icarus came to know that King Minos was having a plan. What was that plan? A plan to kill them there only, kill them there in the labyrinth. So when Daedalus came to know this particular thing, Daedalus was very clever. Remember that. You know that he was an inventor. He was the one who invented this particular labyrinth that is also called as maze. Okay, this particular maze, when he had created this, see, he also knew the way to escape. He also knew the way to escape, taking his son. And as soon as they escaped, okay, as soon as they escaped, what was the plan? The plan was that Daedalus, taking the feathers of the birds, he had created wings. And he had attached those wings with wax. What is that? With wax. Okay, each wings and very minute and accurately he had created a wings so that they could fly. Okay, like birds. As soon as they started to fly, Icarus and Daedalus. Icarus seems to be more, what you can say, uh, more like more like stubborn at this point of time. Icarus seems to be careless. He was too ambitious. Why? Because Icarus could feel that he is flying higher and higher and higher. But whereas Daedalus was trying to tell him to not to go higher. The reason why, as I already told you earlier, that the feathers were actually being stuck with wax. Remember that. As you go higher and higher, the heat of the sun, the wax gets melted sooner. But Icarus was not listening to the words of his father. He was too ambitious. He was too ambitious and over ambitious. That's what I can tell you. As he went and he leaped towards the sun, that means as he leaped towards the sun, slowly, the feathers were coming out. They're falling. They were falling slow by slow. And slow by slow, Icarus was losing his grip. He lost his wings and he fell in a great height and died. Daedalus was hopeless. He couldn't do anything. So this is a story which I'm trying to refer right now. Now, yeah, listen to me. Just like Icarus, remember, just like Icarus, the speaker, that is a narrator, admits that he also admits that he too was too ambitious, that he too was overly ambitious, and he also leaped at the sun, giving the sun to the crowd. That means here, what is he trying to introduce? What is the poet trying to introduce? Here, the poet is trying to introduce the ideology of not being too ambitious. See, when people have praised you, have welcomed you in such a way, but our job is to do what? To be in our life, to be in our own life. Of course, you expect that you want to do good to people since they have done such a grand welcome and all. But the same way, don't expect the same treatment to give for the public. Because when you try to do good, sometimes it happens bad. Similarly, this same ideology, what Robert Browning is trying to tell us, he's trying to introduce the ideology. Ideology of what? Of not trying to be more ambitious, which unfortunately the Patriot was. Unfortunately, the Patriot was very ambitious. He wanted to do everything. He wanted to mingle with everything. So he tried to mingle up in everything, in every matter. Ultimately, he became the villain. Throughout the whole stanza, you could see that the Patriot is reflecting and thinking for what misdeeds that he has done. That is the reason he says, listen to me. Alack, it was I who leaped at the sun. Means at last I was the person who leaped at the sun. I am the one who went and caught myself. I want to do good. It turned into bad. It turned into a wrong way. Okay. I wanted to give something for my loving friends. Means I wanted to do something good to my loving friends. That means his hometown, his native people. He wanted to do something good. He felt that everything that he has done, everything that he could do, possibly that he could do something good, but ultimately turned out to be bad. That is why not man could do have I left undone. He says that everything I tried to do, everything I tried to do good for my people. But what happened? It all turned out to be bad. And you see my harvest, what I reap this very day, now a year is run. Now listen to me very carefully. He said that what all the power I could gather, okay, however, I collected whatever the reward which I tried to work out was all into what? Into nothing. He says that it was my karma. The Patriot is trying to say that it was my duty right now. I'm facing for what I deserve right now. Truly what I deserve is the situation right now I'm facing is what I should have deserved right now. That means he's trying to say that right now he's going into a very bad situation. He's right now going into a very rough situation. In such a rough situation, he says that he truly deserves it. Why? He feels that he's regretting that he shouldn't have done it. He should have kept quiet. He should have been in his own world. But instead of that, he started to mingle. He started to, like, what do you say, trying to put his work or put his, deeds into theirs. No, he should not have done it. He should have owned his own business instead of knowing somebody else's business. Instead of getting into in somebody else's business, he should have minded his own business, but he didn't. That is why his karma is right now. That is why he's feeling in such a way. He's feeling that he truly deserves this situation. And he says that it has been a year since that day. That means this particular day, the same day. It has been a year since right now. Let us come to know in the fourth stanza. Let us come to know in the fourth stanza, guys. There's nobody on the house tops now, just a paled few at the window side. For the best of the sight is all allow. At the Shambles Gate, or better yet, by the very scaffold's foot I trove. So now what he says that now. See, a year later, from where the Patriot started, see, listen to me very carefully. A year later, from where the Patriot started narrating the welcome that he had received from this crowd, from his hometown people, from his native people, he is now being taken through the streets. Now he is being taken to the streets, being humiliated right now. They are taking him in the streets, hitting him, beating him, humiliating him, spitting on him. I'm so sorry. Now he could see when he was coming in the beginning, when he came on the horse, people threw roses, people threw myrtle on his path. Now, a year later, now the same people are throwing stones, are spitting on him, and humiliating on him. He's narrating this. He's trying to tell right now, I could see nobody on the rooftop, on the housetops right now. I could see nobody right now. He can only see few paralyzed people, okay, who are standing near the window. Okay, okay. They were standing near the window and just looking at him. That's all, near the window, that's all. They're looking at him. For the best of all sight, all allow. Now, what he says, for the best sight, which all's allow. Now they're taking him. Okay, now they're taking him to a place where he's getting publicly hanged. Okay, they are taking him to the, now that is what he says. Now it's a time for me. It's all the sight that I could see. The only sight, the only vision that I could see. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. I could see the Shambles Gate. Better yet, by the very scoffle's foot, I trove. You say that? The Shambles Gate. Now, what do you mean by this Shambles Gate? Shambles Gate is nothing but a place where people assemble, where people gather. Now, it's a place. Now, people gather. Now, this is Shambles Gate. Okay, where people gather and watch public execution. Okay, people gather and they see the public execution. Okay, hanging. People are gathered right now. Now this is called, now this is people have gathered. Can you see people have gathered to see the public execution? At the very Scoffle's foot, and Scoffle's foot, you know, this is called Scoffle's foot, hanging place. Where you stand here, and suddenly the wooden platform goes down. And that is how you're being hanged. Okay. And now he says that it is the Shambles Gate, okay, that I'm moving to. Okay, and the very Scoffle foot I trove. That means I believe they're taking me to the Scoffle's foot. Now, what do you mean by Scoffle's foot? Scoffle foot is nothing but a raised wooden platform used formerly for the public execution. Same thing. And now let us see what happens in the fifth stanza. I go in rain and more than needs. A rope cuts both my wrist behind, and I think by the feel my forehead bleeds. For they fling whoever has a mind stones at me for my year's misdeeds. He says that. Now he says that I go in rain. That means they are taking him when it's raining. And the more than needs, that means he says that is what I more need right now, so that they could not see his tears. Okay. A rope cuts both my wrists behind. He says that tightly. My wrists are being cut. Cut means are being bleeding. My wrists are being bleeding. My wrists, that means the ropes are being so tight. And his wrists are being cut. And they've been bleeding. And suddenly he thinks he could feel on his forehead, on top of his forehead, he is bleeding also. And they fling whoever in mind. See, they push him. And they think that, like, they're taking him in such a way, they fling, they push him, whatever they find in the mind, and they take stones and they hit at him. And he feels that this is that year, the same very day I was being welcomed, and the same day I am being I'm getting hanged. I'm going to be executed for all my misdeeds. Of course, he feels that he regrets that the mistakes that he has done. He regrets it. Thus, this is the last stanza. Thus I entered and thus I go. In triumphs people have dropped down dead. Paid by the world, what dost thou owe? Me, God might question now instead. It's God shall repay, I'm safer so. He says that. Thus I entered and thus I go. See how he says. Now the beginning it says, thus I entered. Entered like in the beginning, he entered with roses and myrtles. And thus I go. And now he is going to get publicly executed. And not only that, right now he is getting in place of roses, he is being what? Scars and stones and humiliation is being done right now. In triumph, people have dropped down dead. Now see, people welcomed him before, and now they want him dead. They want him to be killed. That is what he says. Paid by the world, what dost thou owe? This is how he is being paid by the world. This is how he feels that he's being paid by the world. And he continues, what dost thou owe? He thinks that it is good that he has that he thinks that he's about to meet the death. Okay, and now me, God might question now instead. And thus he says, God turns to pay his deeds. The only person who pays your deeds is God. And he thinks that, and he feels that, and God will repay him everything. And he feels that he feels I am safer so. He feels that he is safer in the hands of gods. See, the entire poem is based on irony. Irony in what? Irony of a society. Irony of society who once the same people praised him in such a way. They praised him as a hero. Okay, welcomed him with roses, and the same people are throwing stones, humiliating and spitting on him. This is the critic. This is the harsh public critic. I hope that you all understood the poem. I hope that you understood this poem, The Patriot, which is a dramatic monologue written by Robert Browning. I hope that you all understood. Have a nice day. Take care, guys.